How about now? Okay. We will talk into that one. Let me take these off. Okay. Hello, everyone. We are live. Should be just a quick stream. But we are going to be going over a deeper dive into the draft recap. Get this out there. Get a video up on YouTube and go from there. I hope everyone's having a good night. But we're doing a draft recap for the recent ICP Draft. I'll be honest, I don't even fully know what the ICP stands for. I doubt it's the Insane Clown Posse, but we'll find out. We are here doing a lower tier draft. This is kind of an interesting one. I've never done a lower tier draft. Essentially, mons that in most leagues that are at the quote unquote 13-point range are not available. We are only able to draft, ones that are considered lower tier. So just as an example, mons like Excadrill, I don't believe are allowed. No Glamora, no Urshifu Rapid, Goldango, things like that. This is only lower tier mons, which is really interesting. We concluded the draft. Rules for it are... Let me zoom back out on this. Rules are that the Weather Rocks So standard banning of Moody, Evasion Rising abilities and moves. No Oko moves. No Last Respects. No Shed Tail. No Baton Pass. Number of Terra Captains banned. No Revival Blessing. In terms of drafting, we had 70 points to draft 9 to 11 mons. We get 2 Terra Captains that can total up to 11 points, of which we are only allowed 3 Terra types, one of which has to be Stab. And so this was the end result of what we got. We took Scizor, which I absolutely am excited to get to use. I've only had it once and didn't really get to utilize it. I feel like it's going to put in work in this league. In addition to that, we've got Ambipom, Inteleon, Appleton, Sableye, Garganacl, Oricorio all versions, Alcremie, Mudsdale, Skuntank, and Wug Trio. So the Terra Captains we have this week are going to be, or not this week, but just in general, are going to be Ambipom and Appleton. Terra types I chose for Ambipom are normal, because I had to do Stab, but also it's really good with Ambipom. Ice and Dark. I want Ambipom to basically be a offensive threat. That's kind of why I got it. Double stabbing the boost for Fake Out Technician. It goes hard. Throw on a Silk Scarf, and if they don't have a solid Ghost type, Ambipom can just start destroying things. Terra Ice, because we do have Skill Link as well on Ambipom. So if I want to run Wide Lens and get the Technician boost on, say, Triple Axle, and then get Stabbed to boost it, or we can run a different item, run Skill Link, so all 3 Triple Axle things hit, and Triple Axle goes hard. And then the last one, the reason I went to Terra Dark is because Technician beat up can be a lot of fun, especially if you have an offensive team. And on this team, we have 5 mons that have an attack of 100, so the way beat up works is you divide the base attack, so not adding any EVs or anything like that. You divide the base attack by 10 and add 5. So for example, Ambipom's base attack is 100. Divide that by 10, you get 10, add 5. So the one hit Ambipom mon would do would be for a total of 15. Add the Technician boost to that, 1.5, so you're looking at about 22.5 for just one hit. You then got 5 more mons. So it can easily get up to like base power of 140. And so if you don't have a solid Dark answer, Terra Dark beat up can just really put a hole in the team early. I've run that combo on Fezandipity before, and that mon in that league, King's Rock was legal, so that was fun. On the flip side, we have Appleton. The main purpose of Appleton is kind of just to be a little bit of an answer, so that way we don't get swept by things. Grass, Steel, and Fairy are really good here. Grass, I went with that instead of Dragon because I liked Apple Acid. Be able to just kind of spam that, get the double stat boost if I need, and drop Spadef. Also, still being able to resist a number of things like the Leech Seed, the Spores. That is good to help keep us chip free. But then we have Steel and Fairy, two of the better defensive typings in general. So we can run Recover on this, maybe some lefties, a Citrus Berry, or whatever you might be, just to try and help keep this thing healthy. Obviously, we want to use that just to help sharpen some of our defenses, because one of the things lacking on this team is Spadef. Outside of Alcremie, we don't have anyone with a Spadef of over 90. We do have some that have decent of, Spadef of base 90, 85, 80, with, decent HP stats. So it's not like we're dead in the water, but Alcremie is realistically our only major Spadef option, so I wanted to give Appleton some options. In addition to that, Appleton being Terra Steel, one of its weaknesses fire, thick fat, it really helps answer that. In terms of the rest of the team that we have drafted here, I kind of like a little bit of different options with it. So in terms of hazard removal, Scizor does get defog, so does Oricorio, but that's realistically it for what we've got. At the current moment, there's not a ton, so hazards might be a pain unless we have a solid answer for it. Let me double check. I believe Oricorio does get defog. Now that I'm thinking about it, I could be wrong there. It does get defog. Okay, I'm not crazy. So we have 2 defog mons, no spinners, so that'll be interesting. Because there's no Goldango, not super worried about it. The only real way we get punished is if we have a competitive or a contrary mon would be evil with that, but that's what we have for hazard removal. We have some decent speed tiers. We've got 2 hard-hitting water types. One that's physical, one that is special, both with a base speed of 120. Wugtrio and Inteleon. Wugtrio, honestly, is probably likely going to often get banded just for heavy-hitting moves. With its speed, it can just come in and just start spamming liquidation. And then Inteleon, with its speed and its special attack stat, can run a number of different sets, so that should be interesting. On the physical defensive side, Scizor is good. As long as it's not a fire attack, it can usually eat fairly well. Garganacl also is a very solid option. As well, of course, Mudsdale, which its stamina boost really does help it. So we have a lot of options in terms of bulk, as well as options in terms of just firepower. On the special attack side, we do have Alcremie, we do have Appleton, we do have Inteleon, and then we do have Oricorio, which can set up. Oricorio, in some situations, I'm kind of interested in. Its ability Dancer, might be able to help slow down some temptations on clicking certain buttons from opponents, so that'll be interesting. But all in all, that is the team that we've got. We've already played one game this week. I did a video of a recap earlier, but I wanted to redo it. And so I'm going to be doing this, setting it up live. So it's kind of interesting, but taking a look at this team, I think there are absolutely some gaps, but I also, from what I've seen, there are gaps on most teams. Not in like a negative way, but just it feels like within lower tiers, it's harder to build a team that feels like it meshes well together. So I think it's going to be a question of who can coach around that, which is going to be interesting. Taking a dive into it, let's look at some of the other coaches just to kind of get a comparison. I genuinely am not doing this in terms of, oh, I'm better, or I feel like I've got a better fit here, or, this team's good, this team's not. I genuinely don't have a strong feeling of what teams are going to be good, what teams are not. I'm basically going to call out things that I like, things that worry me, and go from there because I have no basis for an understanding of low tiers. There could be a team that has what I feel like is a giant glaring weakness, and it might not matter. Or there could be a team that has what I think just to be, an insane boost, and again, it might not matter. So it'll be interesting. But taking a look at it, we have the South Bend Snowflakes. Their team consists of Primarina, Clodsire, Iron Jugulis, Hisuian Electrode, Hisuian Gudra, Komala, Dashbon, Wydeer, and Bastiodon. So again, I haven't done like a deep dive into actually looking at all these teams, but the first thing that jumps out to me is holy bulk Batman. Bastiodon, especially since it's a Terra Captain, is going to be annoying as hell. I mean, its base stats are absolutely nuts in terms of being defensive. I mean, base 168 defense, 138 special defense, and it can Terra to get rid of its 2 quad weaknesses. That thing is going to be a pain to break. Wydeer, which I believe gets Intimidate also a Sap Sipper if they want to try and negate grass attacks. That's gonna be a pain. Dash Bun's got a solid defense, especially with its ability to absorb the fire heats. Kamala's not bad. It's a good spinner. Can't be statist. Hisuian Gudra, another freaking tank that is going to be annoying to deal with. Hisuian Electro, that is going to be a fast, hard-hitting mon. I mean, it's electric with Terra Ice and a base speed of 150. You're not going to want to deal with it. They have an unaware mon in Clodsire. They've got Primarina. This is a defensive team, and that's not going to be fun to break. It's going to be annoying as hell. I mean, you've got Wish from Dash Bun. You've got Recover on Clodsire. You've got Moonlight on Primarina. This team is just going to be annoying to have to deal with. That's my initial thoughts. And then we see Mario. Their team consists of Sinashta, Blastoise, Incineroar, Flygon, Galarian Weezing, Terra Captain Bruxish with the Sinashta, Cobalion, Spidops, and Regieleki. This team's kind of interesting to me. This one I feel like kind of meshes fairly well together. Terra of Sinashta with the Fairy and Steel I think makes sense. It allows the Mon to set up. I mean, Machigachi can burn to deal with physical damage, then Calm Minds. You do go to a Terra that's defensive, and it can just absolutely start setting up going, and then it's just too late. It also gets Strength Sap, so that's another way for it to really limit your offensive production to beating it. Shell Smash, Blastoise with Rapid Spin. A lot of different sets that can be ran there. Incineroar can be really annoying. I mean, it's an Intimidate Mon that gets Parting Shot. And so depending on the set, I've seen Scarf sets that just put in work even though it doesn't have a high base speed. Flygon, Levitate, 2 Levitate Mons, which is going to be very helpful with this set. In Dragon Dance, choice item, it works really well. Galarian Weezing. Neutralizing Gas is a really interesting one depending on the matchup, so I like that. Bruxish, Strong Jaw with Water, Dark, and then I believe that's Fighting for the Terra, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a look. Just to confirm. This is Coach Mario B, our fearless leader. That might be Psychic. I think it's Psychic. So they went double stab if that's the case. Yeah, they went double stab. Psychic, that's going to be interesting. This team I think is meshable. There's a lot of different options all over. They've got physical walls, they've got special walls, they've got setup mons, they've got quick attack mons. Regieleki, thank God they didn't let it Terra. Regieleki is a mon that I have mixed feelings on. If I draft it, it should be allowed to Terra. If I don't, thank God they don't allow it. And then before I forget, I had to reply to something. Okay. Yeah, so Regieleki, if I have it, it should be allowed to Terra. And if I don't, thank God it's not. Taking a look at the next team, we've got Metagross, Iron Thorns, Grimmsnarl, Noivern, Milotic, Totsucruel, Orangu, Hisuian Sneasel, and Houndoom. This one's interesting. Nothing jumps out to me right off the bat. I think Noivern's a very fun mon. I'm glad they didn't make it Terra Captain because that can be very annoying. Specs, Boomburst, Terra Normal, it just can start dropping things left and right. Iron Thorns, though, I think is a good one here. It doesn't have a super high base speed, but its attack and the fact that it can get booster energy for its attack, it gets a Dragon Dance off. It's putting in work. Metagross, good priority move. Good base. Defensive stats. Orangu is going to be annoying. All in all, this team has some very solid setup mons, some quick hitting mons, and some annoying walls, so I think it's well put together. I do like the Houndoom here with the Flash Fire. I do feel like that'll be good, especially as something to pair with the Metagross and the Totsucruel, which don't want to deal with the fire. But all in all, this team, nothing stands out. No, nothing that I think can be exploited. Nothing that I think can be, a overarching theme. Pokemon Professor. This is who we face this week. They have Indeedee, Tentacruel, Primeape, Florges, Hisuian, Avila, Gligar, Umbreon, Mismagius, Sceptile, and Ariados. So Ariados gets the option for webs, which can be absolutely annoying. Also, its poison and T-spikes can be a bit of a pain. The big thing that jumps out to me is this is an unburdened terrain setter base. So Indeedee with Sceptile can tear it into either grass, fire, and electric. I was a little surprised I didn't do flying just for the acrobatics boost with the unburden, but electric and fire is a very deadly combo, especially with it potentially having Leaf Blade or something along those lines. Terra Electric to deal with a lot of the things that might be an answer for the Sceptile. The only thing that potentially I think can consistently come in and be annoying is going to be a Dragon type, which there aren't a ton of in this lower cup, so maybe a few Mons, but let me see. It does get Outrage, so it can punish Dragon types that way, but all of its stab boosted moves would potentially be stopped by it, which isn't the end of the world, especially considering this thing's going to be fast as hell. It gets a Sword Stance off, and it's just going to go to town. This team has some very interesting walls. Umbreon is a great recovery mon. Status passing. Get some chip with either Foul Play if they're setting up. Maybe Toxic. Florges, special defensive mon. Primeape, I think, is really interesting. You can't get its counterpart, but it can put in absolute insane work here. Getting Rage Fist, depending on the set. So, especially with its webs, that team's going to have a lot of potential to do some very evil things. When I say evil, I mean that in a fun way. Alright, next up we got Raikou, Diancie, Haxorus, Fortress, Alomomola, Lurantis, Hillswine, Dodrio, and Alolan Muck. The thing that stands out to me on this one is it doesn't seem like there is a ton of speed. You got Dodrio, you've got Raikou, but outside of that, I think Raikou's the fastest, and I think that's a base 115 speed. Unless Dodrio, because I thought Dodrio was base 110. It is 110. So not a ton of over-the-top speed here, but they have a lot of bulk, which would be really annoying. I mean, Alomomola, 150 base HP, it gets Wish to pass and get things healthy. On top of that, it gets Regenerator and Baton Pass flip turn, so that can be very annoying. Lurantis with Contrary and being a Terra Captain, going to be a pain. And Diancie, I mean, its stats, Terra Water makes sense, Terra Ghost makes sense, Terra Fairy. It can just be an absolute pain to have to deal with. This team feels like it's got a couple of setup mons, but it's mainly wanting to be bulky and annoying and try and chip you down. Haxorus is a good mon. You can Swords Dance with Scale Shots, just Dragon Dance, and just start putting in some crazy work. So it'll be interesting. I'm curious how this matchup would look on paper, but just taking a look at it, there are a lot of annoying walls to have to deal with. Which I've seen kind of be a theme in the lower cup. It feels like there's a lot of mons here that don't have a ton of offensive firepower, but they do have bulk and defense, and so that might be the play for a lot of options. All right, the last one on this row, we've got the Vancouver Titans. G's, not sure how that's been pronounced. We've got the Hisuian Arcanine, Hatterene, Skarmory, Slitherwing, Tinkaton, Cyclizar, Cloudster, Rotom, Krokorok, and Gloom. I don't know what to make of this off the bat. I love the Terra of Rotom. I think Rotom with the Terra is kind of underrated here. Terra Ghost Double Stab is always fun, especially when, the only things that resist Ghost are normal and dark. So in a lot of matchups, it could be free. Throw Scarf on it, and then basically just Terra into Ghost and get free specs. Poison and Grass as the other two options are kind of interesting to me. Rotom gets the Levitate, so I don't know what the Grass specifically is for. I'm a little surprised I didn't have Electric on there as an option, just because you get the Levitate, and you have no natural weakness. So I'm curious what the game plan with that is. I'm sure they've got something in their back pocket in terms of what they're wanting to use for that I just can't envision. Because a lot of these mons I've never considered as Terra Captains. So please do not take any of these thoughts as critiques or knocks or anything like that. I'm just genuinely curious to see what coaches do with some of these sets because they're being done in a way I couldn't imagine. And I have a feeling they're going to be very creative and put me to shame. Cloudster, I think that's a very interesting one as well. Its ability just kind of goes nuts. Water, if you Terra into that, Water Pulse is going to get, a boost from its ability. Mega Launcher, which is always fun. Terra Dragon makes sense because the only things that resist water are water, dragon, and grass. Well, guess what? Just go into dragon and you're all set. And I think the only thing realistically based off these that are just going to be a pain to deal with for the Cloudster is probably going to be that Primarina. They got some speed with Cyclizar for hazard removal as well. Slitherwing's interesting. Hisuian Arcanine is interesting. Hatterene for the Magic Bounce is going to be good as well. Another team with not a ton of speed outside the Cyclizar, but it looks like this is going to be a hazard annoying team that could potentially come in and set up for things. I'm curious to see how this is going to do. Some lower level mons. Gloom, I want to say, has some fun abilities. What does Stench do again? Oh, just gains 10% chance to flinch. Interesting. I don't think it's got a high enough speed to maximize that, so it's probably going to be chlorophyll. So I'll be curious to see what the game plan with that is. But all in all, I think this team's going to be a hazard-based one, which will be interesting with some hard-hitting special attackers. Slitherwing and Hisuian Arcanine, though, assisted attackers are always very solid options. All right, let's take a look at the Creator Haven Hurricanes. We've got Swampert, Regidrago, Cresselia, Rabombi, Cerulege, Bronzong, Dunsparce, Tropius, and Mightyena. Mightyena is good. Get that Intimidate off. It's got some interesting options for moves. I mean, Poison Fang is really interesting if you're dealing with a Fairy type as an answer for it. So that'll be interesting. Tropius as the Terra Captain is going to be annoying, especially if it's a Harvest set. Just recover that berry, run sub, leech seed. You can also run a Dragon Dance set, which is always interesting. It's Terra's Flying, Ice, and Ground. Curious what the ice is going to be used for. Let me take a look at the moves that it has. Because ice, I would imagine, would be offensive, but it's not boosting any moves that it naturally gets, like say Triple Axle, so it would just be Terra Blast. So I'm curious to see what that one's for, because the only thing ice resists is ice, and if you're going to do that, then you've got other options. So curious how they're going to use that one. You've got Ground for the electric option and Rock, so that's solid. Bronzong is Terra Psychic, so they went and doubled down into that. Then Water and Fairy, I think, makes a lot of sense for Bronzong. They do have the Dunsparce. Cerulege, I think, will be very interesting. It's outside the Terra budget, so that's good because that Mon gets a Sword Stance off, weak armor. It can be annoying. Rabombi with webs, Cresselia as a tank, and then Regidrago and Swampert. This team's got some interesting components to it. I'm curious to see how it's used. Alright, then we've got my team, so we're just going to skip over that because we've already taken a look at it. We have a rain team in the Clarksville Celestials, so something I didn't mention but kind of clearly call out. The weather-enhancing rocks are not allowed. So damp rock's not going to be allowed for this team, but they are taking advantage of the rain. You've got Swift Swim users in Barraskewda and Overquill. They have two Terra Captains, Rhyperior, which, if that Mon's not having to deal with being quad options, that's going to be interesting, because its physical play is really good. I'm not going to lie, I am a little shocked that they didn't go Terra Water on the rain team. I mean, especially since it gets Lightning Rod, the only thing to worry about would be Grass, because it would have Electric Immunity. So I'm curious what the game plan here is with the Fairy and the Flying. Flying, they would have that play for the Lightning Rod. But with the Water, I would have expected Rain to boost it, but that's not the case. And they have Calyrex with Grass, Fairy, and Steel, so that'll be interesting. But this is going to be a big-time rain team, which will be fun. They've got some top-end Mons and then some lower Mons to fill it up. Those lower Mons can be bulky or fill roles. Very curious to see how that rain team is played out. Next up, we have the Calerona, Haxorus, Mienshao, Melota, Tinkaton, Mandibuzz, Salazzle, Lantern, Quilladin, Golurk, Meowstic, Derusion, and Cutiefly. I mean, the big thing that kind of stands out to me on this one's going to be the Mienshao. I think it has some potential play options. You have Screen Setter with Meowstic. That, I believe, 99% sure is a Prankstermon. It is. It also gets Infiltrator, so that'll be interesting, but get some screens up, potentially allow some other Mons. Salazzle, Curious what the game plan is there. I mean, its corrosion ability and the fact that it's poison type means that whatever it wants to get poisoned is getting poisoned or getting toxic, so have fun with that. Mandibuzz is a good stall recovery mon. Tinkaton's got some options. This is kind of interesting. You've got Golurk and you've got Mienshao for physical threats. Not a ton outside of that. Although Meloetta is going to be interesting here because if it's allowed Relic Song, it can go to Terra. It can't go to physical side of things, so Terra Normal could go nuts on it. Alright, then we have the Roman Polions. That is Aaron. I don't care if this mon is, or this team was 10 Magic Harps. If it's being coached by Aaron, it's going to be scary. That's just a rule. I've learned to respect a lot of what Aaron does, especially with the low kicks here. I like that as a Terra captain. Its ability, Tinted Lens, really means that, you know, if they wanted to, slap a choice item on low ticks, go into Terra Bug or Terra Dark just to, you know, double up for the stab, and it's going to hit anything it wants to hard. It's also got fire, so low kicks, especially with its first impression, can just be a walking nuke. You've got Donphan for hazard removal, Sturdy, and a solid ground mon. Volcanion, which has water absorb, as well as Storm Drain Gastrodon. So this team's not going to be afraid of water. Cooperage is a very nice bulky mon. Sheer Force goes hard. Then you've got Galvantula, Braviary, Quaxquill, Swalot, and Electro. I mean, I think the big mons that jump out to me are the first 6. After that, there are some kind of key role-playing mons. But this team's not afraid of water, and low kicks as a Terra captain, I think, can put in some major work. Alright, and then the last one, we have the Phoenix Incineroars. Entei, Sylveon, Sneasel, Flamingo, Sandy Shocks, Tatsugiri, Quillfish, Brambleghast, Gumshoes, and Berserker, as well as, that's it. Terra, Fighting, Flying, and Steel Flamingo. That mon's just basically just going to be offensive threats. I mean, you basically, in terms of Flamingo, you need to have a solid defensive Flying type, a solid defensive Psychic type, or a solid defensive Fairy type. Otherwise, Terra Fighting just goes hard because it gets the scrappy ability. Unless I'm losing my mind. Yep, it gets scrappy. So that is going to be an annoying mon to have to deal with, especially if it's just Terra Fighting. Tatsugiri is interesting as well. It gets Storm Drain, so Terra Water. Double up on the Hydro Pump damage. Fire makes sense since it's not afraid of getting water with its Storm Drain, and then Terra Fairy. So Rapid Spin for hazard removal. This team's got some good mons that fill all over. It's got good hazard removal between the Rapid Spin on the Brambleghast. It's got Rapid Spin on the Tatsugiri. Quillfish for natural T-Spike removal. So as long as, you know, it wants hazards gone, it can do so. Unless you've got a solid Ghost type, but even then you're risking potential reads and clicking on things like, say, Flamingo just going, you know, and attacking, or, you know, Tatsugiri going for the Hydro Pump. It does get knockoff, and Brambleghast is a Ghost type, so it can just click Poltergeist on the Chinese swap in and be annoying. But that is the draft. Kind of taking a look at all the teams. I honestly don't know what to make of it. I think it's just going to come down to how well you drive the bus on it. There are some very interesting teams, so, you know, we'll have to play around and take a dive into it as we go, but that is where we're at. So I appreciate you guys for diving into this with me. It's the first low tiers draft I've done, so honestly I have no idea what to expect of it. So let's hope we're not making too much of a fools of ourselves, and, you know, see if we can get some RNG to go our way. But appreciate y'all. We will see you in the next one. Take care.